It's kind of nice when you let go of everything else and you just figure that out. Who's ready to hit it?
I am.
There we go. We can always cut to kitty cam though, right?
We can cut to kitty
We
cam.
can.
We absolutely can. How are you?
I'm good. How's it going?
I'm good. Hello, everybody. Hello. Hi, Mrs.
Hello.
Ryan. We are sitting here with Daria. We're going to get into that in a minute, but welcome back, everybody. Hi there. Today is Wednesday, May 9th, 2018. We are here with Daria. Two.
Yeah, that's right. I have the twos, you have the ones, right?
Yeah, isn't that cool? Did you do that after
It
seeing
is.
us and you were like, we're going to follow them sequentially?
Yes. We're followers 222.
Way to go.
No, but it's a good segue into the reason that we even have a connection before
It is.
any of this.
It absolutely
right?
is. So we should probably say the reason Daria is here today is she is a breakfast clubber. She is a friend. She is a fan of the show. She is Mrs. Ryan's former landlord. All of these things are unrelated, by the way.
in
Every
that
single
order.
thing is unrelated. Yeah, they happened in completely, it's totally crazy. I should let you guys tell the story. But for me, I met you when you showed up at Breakfast Club one time. I think, was it just with Michael? Did you have
It was
any
just
kids?
with Michael,
Okay.
and that was the whole point, right? Like it was him who has the obsession with Porsches. It is his car. I'm literally just along for the ride as
But as I am.
hashtag Porsche wife.
Okay. We have a lot to talk about there.
Yeah.
So remind me. But I am. First of all, that's the address, right, of that place that I used to, the
the unit
222?
number, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
So wait a second. So you went from a place 111 Croft to a place that was 222?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
That's bizarre. I mean, in that we're sitting here with 111 being our number and 222
Yeah.
being
And
yours.
what's weirder is that your number now, I'm not going to say it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Is the same number as when Mike and I were dating. He had a place, and that was his
No
number
kidding.
also. So
And
there's
they're
a
all
lot of
random numbers. Yeah.
that just happened to come up.
Pretty neat.
It's pretty cool.
When we met, he was like, he's got a connection to 111 and blah, blah, blah. And he's like, he made the comment kind of offhandedly, but he's like, did you ever, I lived in the marina, the place I lived after your condo. And he was like, do you have any connection to numbers? And like 111, anything ring a bell? And I was like, no. I have no idea what I know.
It came up some other way for sure. And I
Yeah.
can't remember exactly how. I think probably my tattoo on my arm, which is Old Kingdom 111
Probably.
for my dad. I think it might have been something like that. But for sure, the answer was no.
Yeah.
And then later, one day when I was rearranging your apartment while you were at work,
Yeah, he found my checkbook.
no, it wasn't
No
even that. I
type
found
A
a piece
there.
of old mail or something, or maybe it was something old with an old address on it, and I was like, 111 South Croft Avenue. Like, you don't have any connection to it.
Nope.
It's also an address, same as mine was.
Nope.
The history also, just from the personal side of 111, that picture of the house there, that was actually 111 Old Kingdom Road, and I say was because it looks completely different now. But that's the house I grew up in, and it doesn't
Okay.
matter other than there's a whole story for why I didn't end up in it. It was
Yeah.
like it was a whole, a family trauma type of story. Not to bring it down, but it goes deep. The 111 goes
Yeah.
deep, and it's luckily all positive now. But it was interesting to say the least. Would you say?
I was quite cavalier and dismissive. That was my MO for a while. Thanks for staying with me.
Did you do you tend to have it served up to you
Constantly.
repeatedly?
Constantly.
And yeah,
I found, and
you may have too.
this is
Now.
one of,
Yeah.
this is one of the reasons that it's on the car and stuff. It has nothing to do with my address anymore or my dad. While I love and still appreciate and think of my dad, I've sort of moved on from those sentimental versions of it, and it is because it started showing up in my life
Yeah.
a lot. And, there's signs everywhere. Well, I kind of believe there are signs everywhere, and there are patterns, and you can navigate them,
Yeah.
and you can figure shit out. And then, when you start doing more research, 3 1s, 4 1s, and by the way, it's not 111, it's 111. To be very clear with
Yeah.
everybody else, I mean 111 is what it you would say it, but it's singularly 111.
Yeah.
And then so 4 1s comes up a lot, and apparently it's a thing like with spiritual enlightenment or correct. That is a correct answer.
Dang.
Okie doke. That was too
was
good
like,
to plan.
God, the game show host right there.
Yeah, exactly. We hired Letterman's
Universe
special
game
effects
show,
guy or sound effects guy.
Yeah.
So, there's an interesting attachment there. And with the way that we choose to live our lives, it just seems like you got to put that stuff on your sleeve, or in this case, your door or whatever, and just live it.
Yeah.
So it sort of becomes, for us, when it comes to porschelife, it's one with the car, one with the driver, one with the road, just singularly these individual things at their most simple, prime, I don't know.
Essence.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't reduce more than 111 until you get into fractions and decimals. So it's for me, it's a simplicity thing and a minimalism thing, which it's how we live our lives.
I love it.
Yeah.
A lot of
I'm glad
what
you turned the
say
tables
kind
on me immediately. I don't know how you did that.
Yeah.
Wow. Nice job.
It's the 222. I've leveled up.
Oh, I see. So you're actually ahead of me. So
Yeah,
we're looking
life skill unlocked. So
Well done.
jujitsu.
Is that how do you do jujitsu?
No, I do Krav Maga.
And you
which
say
has
Krav?
Yes.
Good.
That's
It's how it's
think that's
spelled. It's how it's spelled.
Yeah, I'm not sure. There might be a different way to say it, but I've been taught Krav Maga. But yeah,
Good.
nice flip.
Yeah.
We'll go into that in a second. We're going to finish up with the story first,
Oh, okay.
and then we can go back to Krav
Perfect.
Maga.
I don't have so much of a story. I was trying to look at pictures today. I remember
The 222 condo story.
I do love that. I don't remember is that whatever? I'll ask you offline. But I met a girl in that building that is one of my dearest from afar kind of friends.
Yeah.
Who's this?
My friend Leslie Bruce. She's a writer.
Talk about her, yeah.
She's pregnant with a
I've never met her,
kid.
though, right?
Kudos. No, you've not. Her and her husband Yushar got married right before I moved to the West Side, or before I met you. But they were awesome, and they were in that building, and I owe you thanks to that. And
Okay, well,
that whole
I think back
place.
to the story you were talking about was you showed up at Breakfast Club. I didn't know you.
Yeah.
Michael
Yeah.
is the Porsche guy.
Yes.
But you walked in, and it was a full day for whatever reason, we had taken over other areas and stuff. And so you walked in. We didn't know you. So the fact that you came over to us was a thing.
We were
but,
you want to go over there? I want to go over there. Okay.
and then you did and said hello and everything. But this is where the story gets interesting. You go, but I think I know you, to Mrs.
Yeah.
Ryan.
Which was even more awkward. Sorry.
no, it was great. I hadn't I've thought of you often, but not in that context at all.
Can we tell everybody why you knew each other?
Yes.
I had rented a condo that was your parents owned it, right? That's how you were my landlord. And you apparently, I remember you used to live in it.
I did.
So we've lived in the same floor plan.
Yes.
Except not at the same time.
Correct.
So
Oh, you both used to live in the same unit?
I
at
lived in
different
the
times?
unit while I was going to school at UCLA, and then I moved out, and there was, I think, maybe one tenant before you, but the deal was basically that because I had lived there, I was helping my parents manage
Whoa.
the condo. And then Mike kind of got sucked into that too because we come as a set.
That's a team, yep.
Except for right now. Sorry, honey.
next time.
But-
We'll get into that, how the Porsche fan isn't here at the Porsche Life
All
podcast.
on his own.
If he ever stops working, he's always working. Even at Breakfast Club, he brings his laptop and he ends up having to,
Yep.
set up in the other room.
Poke him for it. So
Correct. I'm really sitting here without special effects, but those are texts coming in apparently
Can
on the
we
computer.
hear those though?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
all right.
I'm pretty sure.
good because
Yeah.
otherwise it's just going to look weird.
It might. Go with it.
But so I managed the unit for my parents, and I think it was maybe 08, 09 time frame, and you lived there for a while, and our interactions were infrequent. I think we maybe met once or twice.
I think once.
Yeah, it's quite possible. Although
Yeah.
we had a lot of email back and forth about
So was
stuff.
it the name you remembered or the face in
So-
the pictures from one time?
I've been wondering this also.
Okay, so and I
And I
honestly
said it
don't know
because the name
exactly.
is different, right? I don't know if you have your
I-
maiden name on anything.
No.
Shabbat.
I have two theories. One is that somewhere in the underbelly of social media, my Instagram fished out your email from my
Okay.
emails and served you up, and we started following
Oh,
where
there's
I
some
started
algorithm
following you.
suggested.
Yes.
Right.
Right. Or because we started following all the Porsche stuff, we came onto you anyway because of the
And boy,
probably
was that
through
awkward.
It's
I
awkward.
didn't know we'd get into that today. How exciting. No, I'm just kidding.
So I'm not 100% sure, but at some point in time, I realized that you were in my Instagram feed and that we knew each other because of that connection.
That is so
and then it was weird because I was like, well, I kind of like, should I say something? It's kind of
Because
a
it's like, this
weird
is my husband's
connection.
thing.
Right, but not like I'm not stalking you, but I'm following you, but we have
And we
this
did
weird
used to know each other.
connection.
Yeah, that's the internet.
So that's probably why when we actually met in person, I was like, hi, thanks so much. By the way, I know you. Like, I felt like I had to tell you immediately so that like it was all out in the open, which then just came across really weird. But you
I
were
don't-
so nice about it. You were so nice about it.
I think people need to embrace the awkward because while it was awkward for 2 seconds, it was only awkward for 2 seconds. And now it's this glorious, awesome story that we have such a wonderful, warm feeling about. Versus like, we never did go say hello. You know what I
They
mean?
seemed so nice from afar.
That's what I mean. So you get over the fear or whatever that is and then just go do
I
it,
kind
which
of
you did.
figure that somewhere or another, right, like the lines, the paths crossed before, and it's only a matter of time, right? And like one of the things Mike and I
orbit type
knew,
thing.
yeah, Mike and I had the same group of friends our whole first year of school, but we didn't know each other, so it was just a matter of time anyway. So why not just kind of
Wait, so when did you meet him?
in the very beginning of our second year at UCLA.
Oh, so you went there too. You've known him
Yeah.
since college. Where's he
Yeah.
from?
Where's he? What?
From originally.
He grew up in Tucson for the most part and then bounced around a little bit on the East Coast, but then ended up coming back to LA specifically to go to UCLA.
Wow.
So that's where we met.
I like him. I would like to get to know him. We've met him very briefly several times. He doesn't say much. We've never been able to sit next
Super
to
quiet.
each other. And then one time we got borderline close. He ended up having to go take like work
Yeah.
calls for the next 4 hours.
He's, well, I'm a fan.
I bet. Is it okay that we're talking about him? Will he care?
I think I'm just envisioning him on the couch right now, just kind of like slightly cringing and not being able to say anything.
Yeah,
But yeah,
that's
I
tough.
think it's fine.
You'd probably like it more, I would imagine.
No, he's wonderful, and there's a lot of good to get to know with him too. So
Oh, I love hearing that.
I'm
Nice tease.
there you go, right? One thing that actually you had said on an episode, I don't remember which, but something that I've taken with me in my relationship with Mike, which is now quite long. We actually have known each other and been with each other longer than we haven't
Whoa.
in our
That's a
crazy
game
lifespan.
changer.
Wow.
Yeah, we kind of crossed that mark. You at one point said something about, in the context of the car stuff, how Jay is your hobby in that regard.
Yeah.
And I had never really looked at it from that perspective with Mike. I was always just like, oh yeah, he's into cars and okay, here's another car. And then all of a sudden when you said that, I was like, wow, this would have been so much, I would have had so much more understanding had I looked at it that way. But since I heard that, I've embraced the car thing and actually probably a few other things that he enjoys a lot more than I would have. So I actually thank you for that, because that's a big deal.
A lot.
It was a very cool perspective and neat thing to say and have.
Thanks, dude.
It was cool.
Someone told that to me or asked me the question and made me think about it, and I hadn't thought about it either. But I couldn't figure out, like, it's one of those things which you must get now. Like, I'm not the know-it-all that we often run into about Porsches. Like, I'm not a Porsche file. I don't have that breadth of historical interest. But I'm interested and fascinated by the beauty of it. So I like being around it, but really it's watching him enjoy it, which I imagine must be like, well, you have kids. I imagine it to be like that, of like watching him find art in things is my hobby. It's not mine. Like, I find art in different things, in my writing, in the weirdness of the world, which also happens to be pretty prevalent in this culture.
A lot to dig into there.
Yeah, so I enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like, for different reasons, but watching him love it is the best gift of it. So yeah, like, I'm really glad you noticed that moment because someone asked me, and I'm always curious also because it's really different.
Yeah.
Like having that perspective changed my whole world, and hearing you talk about it, like it sounds like it did for you too.
Yeah. And I mean, how lucky is anyone to have someone that sees them that way, that their interest in something is so, that brings the other person joy. I mean, I definitely aspire to move in that direction. So it's a really positive quality.
As someone who's sitting here on basically the receiving end of the praise that you guys are giving, that Mike and I would have at the same time, because it's like, oh, they have this passion towards something that's so good that the passion becomes as interesting to someone else as what they're interested in. That's a huge compliment from you, whether you realize it or not. And I want to say on behalf of Mike and me, thank you. In the same way that, I think the fact that you pointed that out to Mrs. Ryan, I think is awesome too, because I think it's important for you to hear stuff like that, to know that, your voice is powerful and people are listening. So,
Thanks.
Pressure's on.
Good coaching. Good
Better
coaching.
get my thoughts together.
Slow clap.
All right, what do you want to talk about? Because, if you don't have questions.
Oh, now we're talking somebody who brings their own material. I love this. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Turn the table.
All right.
Sure,
This
whatever.
is the coolest thing ever.
I love this.
I am, this was like in case all the wheels fell off, but I don't think we need to do that because I'll break them off.
I'm so excited.
Here's my first question. It's for you. Why are the cards always blue?
Okay.
This is a serious question. I don't know the answer, but
I can
have
answer.
A feeling
you
might know.
I do have an answer. When you say, like, why are the cards always blue, you don't even mean necessarily why are our cards blue. Why are the cards blue on television shows,
Actors
correct?
Studio, Letterman.
Right. There's a reason for it. Because they're not white.
But why blue? I know why Band-Aids are blue in restaurants.
I don't.
Because
So
there's
they don't
no
look
blue
like
food.
food? Yeah.
Yeah.
Gloves,
That's a
right?
good answer.
Those like latex
Anything
gloves.
blue, right.
Yeah.
So if it falls off into food, you can clearly identify it.
Back in the day, technology and equipment was not nearly as
So
good as it
gross.
is today. Okay?
Yeah.
So that's why if you ever hear don't wear white on television,
Right.
things like that, it's because the cameras couldn't handle the contrast
Right.
of something really light and something really dark. So you couldn't have white. So even news guys or people, if you're looking at their whatever, they're shuffling, whatever, generally that's some version of light blue or a pale pastel color. Blue happens to just translate to, if you look on Letterman, they're blue cards, but they're damn near white in the scheme of things. If you look at his shirt, they end up damn near matching.
Yeah.
But they're not. If it was truly white, it would just be too hot. These days, I don't know if it matters as much. I think the cameras can handle it. However, it still is asking more of them than providing a color that's more soothing to the technology.
And is there any reason why it's blue versus green or
No, I've
pink
seen
or
I've seen
yellow?
yellow a lot. I used to work on some morning
Okay.
talk shows where they were yellow and blue. Like that one, I think Regis and Kelly even were the same. Like one host had one and one with the other.
Okay.
And I don't even know how far. I mean, I would imagine that since the 90s, you could probably have white on television. So it's a very old thing.
They used to,
for
like,
us, it's more of a nod.
they
You know,
used to
it's
make-
like,
I love
we're
it.
doing all the real talk show stuff. You know, it's just
I
nerdy,
love it.
nerdy stuff.
They used to make notes for bookings to ask people not to wear white and not to wear stripes.
Right.
Yeah.
So
We even put it in our thing.
then it's still ongoing.
Stripes are okay nowadays, but man, that was a thing because
The
they were.
moire of
You ever
the-
see
yeah,
that?
yeah.
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 We watched an old interview and someone had a striped shirt on, and I was like, I can't do it. I can't do
zigzaggy.
it. My
Like all
my head
Max
blew
Headroom
up.
and- yeah. Yeah, I know with with print on photos and whatnot to get the weird, moire, you don't want certain colors and whatnot. So
That's
that
all
makes
it is.
sense.
It's just a contrast and technology.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you.
That was easy.
Yeah.
So that was
Now
a real
what?
legit question. It wasn't even funny. That was the only one? Or are we going
I
through
have
them
another
one
one.
slowly? I love that you brought cards. Even though they're the wrong color.
Blown away.
I was just brainstorming questions, but one of the things I've heard you talk about in little bits and pieces, maybe even from Breakfast Club, like overhearing things, because I surround sound listen sometimes.
Yeah.
Was some connection you have with drumming and music, and I would love to know more about that.
Sure.
And
Past Lives
what it is.
Pavilion. Yeah. Before this came into my life, and I say this like the talk show, the fact that the talk show is a thing, I found music at a very early age. My dad was into music, and he made sure that I was into music. Not made sure, but he made sure that it was available and around. We had a guest yesterday, Richard Chasler, who was talking about how he was like, a child prodigy drumming at 7 or 8 and whatever. I got my first snare drum, like a real snare drum, at 1.5 or 1 and 3 months, whatever. The Christmas after my first Christmas, and I was born in September. I got my first drum set the following Christmas, and was playing at a very early age. Carried that on through the elementary, middle, and high school. Got pretty good. Was doing sessions in New York City. I was doing live radio gigs,
That's
live
awesome.
performances and stuff. And it was really, really fun. And I actually thought that was going to be my future. Like even when I was doing my little talk show in high school, the clips we were playing was like me at the talent show doing the drums and stuff like that.
And you had musicians on, like I remember the Lou Soloff bit. Like,
Yeah,
so
we would have
clearly.
real music. Yeah, I mean, luckily my aunt was friends with Paul Schaefer, and specifically her best friend was Lou Soloff, who was sort of the bridge gap there. And he was a famous trumpet player. He's since passed away a couple years ago, but he was a famous trumpet player from like the Blood, Sweat, and Tears and all sorts of stuff you would know, the Letterman band and stuff. And we had him on, and my band teacher played the trumpet as well as the art teacher, and they all came in and nerded out. We're going to play some of these clips on this show as well, because some of that stuff's actually, as hard as the old stuff is to watch, oh my gosh, it's rough.
That one in particular.
Some stuff is kind of neat, because it's like either the guest was way too good for the show, or like my teachers are nerding out over my guest, and I'm just sitting there trying to wrangle it all.
That's one of my favorite episodes. Is like these older men are like chomping at the bit.
It turns into the Chris Farley show. They're like, do you remember the concert at Western State Connecticut University in 1969 where... and he's like, no, I remember a snowstorm. He's like, yeah, we picked you up in a Camaro at the train station.
It's so good.
And meanwhile, this was like, he turned into the dean of students at my school. And
That's
everything. It was a
funny.
big deal. But so, yeah, music was always big in my life. And I think when I found this, like everything else, it just kind of goes by the wayside or becomes less interesting or something. And once I found television and once I got into that high school, in Wilton High School, because I saw that not only is television a thing, but like I could do it. Not that I'd be good at it, but like I could do this. And it's what I wanted to do. So I sort of shifted focus. And instead of drawing drums and all of like all the stuff that I used to draw, it began to be old-fashioned microphones and David Letterman's desk and set and stuff like that, because that's what I now focused my manifestations on for my talk show in high school and all the other stuff. So that's where it went. I still play every once in a while.
I was going to ask if you miss it. Yeah.
I do miss it very much. I've bought drum sets over the years, and like they've since either gotten left in storage places or given to friends or whatever.
Yeah.
Producer Kate has one. Her husband has one, and she has asked a couple times, like, when are you going to come visit your drums? Like, when's Jay going to come visit the drums? Like,
the truth is, I think the last time I played live was, and it was the impetus to buy that drum set, was in New Orleans with Craig Robinson, for the Hot Tub Time Machine 2 rap party.
yeah.
It was
a stupidly great movie.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
the second
I
one?
loved it.
I think
first
I might
one.
be thinking of the first
first
one.
one, yeah.
I don't know if I've seen the second one, but I really enjoyed that way more than I thought I
Yeah,
was
same
going
here.
to.
The first one is really a fantastic comedy, and it's
Yeah.
a very well crafted movie on
It
top
is.
of it. It's like a Back to the Future.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that was it. But it was the Hot Tub 2 rap party in New Orleans. So we're at like the Saint Hotel, a happening spot a happening town with some of the best musicians in the world. And I'm like, maybe I'll just get back into it.
Now's as good a time as any.
Jump
I think
in.
that's awesome, though.
I did. Yeah, we played like 5 or 6 sets that night too, and it was crazy.
It was bizarre. Like being in the middle, like professional person, you've walked that line. Like it was so like, yeah, my husband's playing with my client. Like it was so bizarre, but it was so cool and beautiful and neat to watch you guys both play.
Yeah, they happened to have a backline at this hotel, so it wasn't like I didn't have anything, and it was just happened to be there, and they had everything but drumsticks essentially. So I ended up making some drumsticks out of chopsticks and tape, making hot sticks essentially.
Yeah.
Dude, you have no idea. It was so crazy.
So ended up, and it worked, and
That's
it worked for
awesome.
the whole night. It's pretty awesome. So I love that you picked up on that. I still have a love for it. I just I don't really have room for it,
Yeah.
literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
But man, if somebody's ever playing out or whatever and like, hey, do you want to sit in? Yeah, I'll usually jump on that opportunity.
That's awesome. I'd love to hear you play sometime. That's
Sure.
very cool.
That's the other thing too, is I mean, I can't do what I used to do, but I can still play the drums.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, I used to be like really good for how I would, compared to now, but I could still absolutely play the drums.
Well, with that type of drawing a little bit of an analogy, but with an instrument like the drums where you've got so many different components to kind of put it together into one piece or one feeling, it's pretty similar to what you do now. And
You think?
I'm sitting here and I see all the pieces, right? And most people will see only the performance, right? But I don't know. Maybe
The
that's
coordination
too far
of it all.
yeah.
No, I love it. I
The
get
different
it.
types of drums, the different, sounds they make, as opposed to, I don't know, a
You're
trombone
good.
kind of one.
I used to
You're
say
good.
I used to draw the parallel between drumming and driving stick, as a matter of fact, and
Yeah.
being a sports car or a race car driver, because you are actually using all four limbs to do different things
Yes.
at the same time, which is at different rhythms, different ideas. Each thing's following a different like belief
Thought
system
track,
almost.
yeah.
So there's the ability to sort of half octopus, because it's four limbs, is kind of a quadpus. The ability to quadpus. That's right. I created it.
Oh, so many hashtags.
Hashtag quadpus. Draw your own illustrations, folks. I'm talking about a drummer. I don't know what you're thinking. Yeah, so that whole thing of being able to, heel toe and
Yeah.
be able to shift and steer and, counter steer, all that stuff happening at the same time.
That's really true. I didn't think about that. But yeah, there's a lot going on driving those cars.
Especially the Porsches and 911s in particular, because it's a dance. All four things
Yeah.
are moving in this weird symphony that is completely different than driving any other car, even in the same way. If
Yeah.
that makes sense, just because of the physics of how the thing is set up with the engine in the back.
What
and all
kind
that
of car
stuff.
do y'all have?
We have a 1988 air-cooled Targa in, I want to say the color is marine blue. It's like a very dark metallic blue, but almost grayish.
Yep.
Okay.
And Mike looked for years for the right car. It was like it was a kind of a pilgrimage, a mission, and then that car came up and it was the one, and so we've had it for probably a couple of years now.
You guys
Okay.
got the right car for sure. It just
He
it looks
loves
right on him, and
Yeah.
there are some. We hang around a lot of Porsche owners, and some people hang around. Some people have tons of money and they can have anything they want, and that's awesome because those boxes are checked and they can just do whatever they want. Some people have to. Most people have to, decide on the one that they want.
Right.
Not everyone is happy with the one that they want. Some people are constantly looking at that other one that they still want. He's not doing that.
Yeah.
No,
We're
he
not
loves
doing that
this
either.
car.
I would someday
Yeah.
like to have a collection of Porsches. I'm sure Mike would too. But you're really happy with the one you have it's the one you have.
It's true. It's true. I think his only stipulation, besides the fact that he was really looking for, I believe, an 88 or an 89 because he wanted the Targa bar, he wanted the two seats in the back because we have kids.
Yep.
And he was like, I would like to spend time with my family. It's either like the car or them.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have both. And I think he did not want a black, white, or red one. That was kind of his qualification. He probably would have settled for a white one, but he was just very happy when this color came up, and the mileage was not terrible. He's
Yeah.
the third owner, and the first owner I think was very short, so the second owner
most of its life.
was most of its life, had all the records, and was retiring and moving to some Virgin Island of some sort. So the timing was
Whoa.
ideal,
Yeah.
and the car was in really good condition. And
That's so cool. Well, it's a
yeah.
beautiful car.
Thank you.
We want to see more of it.
Thank you. Yeah, I like it too.
Do you?
I do.
It's an
I
interesting
do. That
question.
was
How
one
do
of
you
my-
like
yeah.
riding in it? Because Mrs. Ryan here, we just have been experimenting with air-cooled cars lately,
Yeah.
driving other people's. And in fact, last weekend we drove two different ones with completely different experiences. And one you were okay with and one you actually really liked quite a bit. How are you dealing
I'm always
with
curious what passengers think because, first of all, having passengers in race cars is rare.
Yeah.
Having women that the husbands want to deal with long enough to go on those rides with, and the women that take the time to do it, like that's doubly rare.
Yeah.
And so, and then everyone has different sensibilities for sitting in seats, and I'm always curious what passengers think.
So I really appreciate this conversation. There was one
good.
episode that you guys were talking about it a little bit, the kind of the ride along, and I've had a very long history riding with my husband, including the very first night I met him, where I got into his car. Long story as to why. We'll deal with whether or not that was a good idea later, and whether or not I'm going to recommend that to my daughter. But I very distinctly remember clearly thinking, I am never getting into the fucking car with this man again. Like that was literally
Let
one of my
alone marrying
first
him and spending the rest of my
right,
life with
and then
him.
driving with him. So clearly I was wrong, but he's had several different cars. He's always been a guy that likes to drive, and is a very good driver. But because I am not in control of that car, and this mirrors a lot of my life, I'm not going to give myself a therapy session quite yet, but it, dealing with the fact that you are just not in control of your life and how you manage that, it's a really good practice in the car.
Yeah.
So I'm at the point now where, especially in that car, I actually like it, and I sit low enough down, and depending on where we're driving, I'm kind of at different levels, but a lot of it actually has to do more with my headspace than his driving.
Interesting.
Yep.
And, occasionally we will have the conversation where he says, why don't you just open... he said, why don't you just close your eyes? And I say, because I want to know what the last thing I'm going to see is. It's really that simple. But that's
Beaming with confidence.
But then there are drives that are awesome, and he's relaxed and happy and focused on the driving and chatting with me as opposed to on the phone.
That's the difference. It's the energy in the car.
And that's the difference, yeah. Specifically about the Porsche, I love riding in it. There have been other cars he's had that I have not liked as much. I feel like
Same with
Porsche
us.
kind of sits on the road and pulls with the road, as opposed to feeling like it's going to fly out from under you.
I think there's a
enjoy
difference going back to what I was saying before of that dance. Having the engine behind you, it's weird going through the canyons because it's a quieter experience. You know what I mean? The noise from the engine, you're not driving through the noise from the engine, that's all behind you. So you just have the wind noise, especially in your Targa. I'm assuming if the roof's off, it's all open air.
It's really well constructed. Like, the hair is not everywhere.
Right.
You're not
Right.
frazzled. It's comfortable.
Yeah, and if you
maybe?
leave the windows
Yeah.
up, I think it's great, right?
It's almost like the top's not on. You get a little bit, but there are other cars that I've sat higher up, and you're like, I can't see. I don't know. Like, it's a lot more. You can't settle into it.
Yeah.
But, sorry, I interrupted you.
No, it's all great. It's all the same thing. Going back to the energy, though, I think it's kind of interesting because that's something that we dealt with long before the Porsche, because we sort of figured out that is a thing. The energy in the car. I think we were driving up to San Francisco or something once, and I was having like panic attacks because she spent the entire 6 hours on the phone, like yelling at clients and people and assistants and everything. Not yelling at clients, I don't mean that, but like she was doing her job.
Yeah.
She was just doing her job, getting shit done so that it was good for her clients when we all got to San Francisco. Holy shit, that took its toll on me. I feel like I was having she called a friend who was a doctor when we got to San Francisco, like, hey, listen, so, is he okay? Like, he doesn't do cocaine and he's not, he doesn't drink a lot of coffee, but he's having these hard things. And, you know what I mean? It was just like a momentary
intense.
stress thing. But we figured out then that, all of that stuff in a confined space, it's energy, so it's got to go somewhere. And we're the softest things in the car, so we fucking absorb it. I mean, it's no joke. It's that simple. The vibrations and soft things. We are these acoustic panels that are everywhere, just sucking it all up.
I'm with you. I think that energy is kind of like frozen. That matter is kind of like frozen energy or light.
Perfect. So you're big into the antimatter or the dark matter or whatever you can't see.
I think we're starting to see a connection between what is like new agey spiritual stuff and actual quantum physics and science.
This is literally what I was doing this morning. This is the research I was doing this morning on YouTube.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'll send you a link.
I
was watching a whole conversation about exactly this.
Yeah.
And we're at that time where the thoughts And these people that used to be working on two different things are now starting to come together and be like, well, wait a minute. And now we're starting to be like, this is the same as this. And now we're starting to meld terms together so that we're all now talking about the same thing. And it's fascinating. It's kind of a neat time to be alive. Not to get all heady about that stuff, but like the world is crazy changing. And I don't think the majority of people realize it happening right now around them.
Yeah, I really do think it is a unique time.
Like, are we crazy to say that? Why do you think? I mean, I believe it so hard at my core, but I can't necessarily tell other people why I believe it.
I'm not going to take a step back and be like, time is a whole nother construct.
Well, there you go.
But
I agree with that too. If you're going to say it's an illusion, and we're talking about, when you said quantum before, I know that you're into the same shit I am. So like everything's possible, and you just got to zoom out, and then all of a sudden none of this bull crap matters.
Yeah, it's like having your head in the clouds and the dirt at your feet at the same time. It's kind of all things at once. I don't think it's unfair to say that it's a time where there's a lot going on. I think what we see are the effects of that, and whether that's in the environmental space or crazy politics and globalization and being able to see a lot more information hitting us than we used to, and then the level of what's happening, creating, I think, just a lot of anxiety on the whole. I do think this is a unique period of time, that there's some sort of transition happening. I don't know if that goes into, like poof, humanity goes away, or if it goes into just another way of being. I'm inclined to think that it's an evolution for humans in this space and time.
I'm inclined to think the same thing. I almost go so far as, you said evolution, that nails it for me. It's kind of 2001, like, the monolith showed up, and sorry, I'm not showing you my text, but like if this were a black phone, there's a remarkable similarity, and there's an evolution, and it was like, oh, you just put the knowledge in everybody's fingertips, and then some people are going to use it, and some people are going to abuse it, and whatever. But what that does do is it forces a change. Pushes you out of the nest of, like, evolutionary speaking, pushes humanity out of the nest. So it's kind of interesting to see what's going on, because politically, I feel like it's going against what I'm talking about, but maybe that's part of it. I don't really know.
It might be.
You know what I mean? Maybe that's what makes people
microcosm of the effects, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think if you
impetus.
zoom out,
I feel like a lot of people are going like, holy crap, there's now an illustration for what we always heard was possible. Now we can look at it, and I'm not saying I agree or don't agree with the president. It really has nothing to do with that to me. Like I said, zoom out, none of this matters. I don't know. I don't even know where I'm going with this. It's a can of worms. It's a bottomless
It's
can
really
of worms.
big and heady, and I think they're bits and pieces. But yeah, that's a conversation over a lot more coffees that I'm happy to partake in.
It's cool that you're open to it, though, because a lot of people don't even know what the fuck we're talking about. And that to me is fine. It's no problem, but I feel like people will.
I think of it less as like a topic that you can wrap your brain around, and more about just an awareness and being open. And maybe that's from my, reading stuff on Buddhism or going that route. But I just think it's not black and white. There's a lot of shades of gray, and
that's kind of the whole point. Is it's all gray. I mean, zoom out far enough, there is no black and white, because either side can be argued to the finiteness of the blackness or the whiteness. Zoom out far enough, you can find data in whatever.
Can I use that as a segue for a question for
Please.
Nicole?
Yeah, take it.
Don't think I didn't.
I can't believe you have one
card
for me.
For you.
It's like Christmas.
But okay, so taking that concept, right, and saying that things are relative. I also believe to a certain extent that actually truth is relative. I'm not saying that there isn't good and bad in the world, but I think truth, and especially now we're kind of seeing this play out, is really dependent on the context and on who's looking at it through which lens.
Whose camera? Absolutely.
Right.
100%. And that's what I was saying, like literally nothing matters if you zoom out far enough, because either point can be argued So it comes down to who's the best arguer. I mean, debate school, like that's who
rhetoric
has the edge up in
and
life, I guess. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that, but
Yeah.
I agree with you. Truth and honesty, all of these things.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons I wish we would spend more time teaching philosophy and rhetoric and ethics again. I think we desperately need it, but that's another.
Are you paying
topic.
attention to? Well, you have kids, so this is an important topic. Are you paying attention to other countries? I feel like it was Switzerland who has abolished the entire educational system that used to exist. I may be wrong about Switzerland. I should do my research on this. But what they're doing now is they're going with a new experiential learning type of plausibility and talking about here's a situational
I think I did read that about Sweden.
I'm not explaining it well.
Yeah, I
I'm
think it
certainly
might
not
be
being
Sweden,
eloquent.
but I've seen a couple of headlines.
It basically
on
takes the idea of like institutionalized testing and the requirements of education that mandates off the table.
Right. 2 + 2 doesn't have to be 4 in some situations is what they're saying.
Yeah. I do follow some of that, and I am very keyed into how my kids are being taught. And I do feel like there's a major disconnect between kind of the rote learning and testing for schools and the education system and how they get paid for, kids being there testing, and then just learning how to think. So we do a lot of the teaching our kids how to think as best as we can outside of it's the life, right?
Yeah.
It's spending
But you
time
know
with them.
that it has to be done, and you're taking the time to do it. So
Trying. This is not like a win situation.
Hey,
I don't
man,
think.
You're ahead of the curve. Like you're doing
Yeah.
something. Kudos. Like that's a big deal. A lot of people don't even know. It's
Yeah.
nuts.
We've noticed with our kids too sometimes that they're just and us too, right? Like the need for instant answers and information, like they just won't try.
Yeah.
And we're like, life skills, you have to try.
The moment this gets shut off, they're
yeah.
all fucked because
Well,
there's too much dependency.
I'm convinced that, previous generations were able to be like, well, go look it up. And now they're like, well, yeah, I'm looking up everything.
Yeah.
So we
Right
can't
now,
even use
here.
that.
Right. Like
Right.
it used to be, get on your bike, go to the library.
Right.
I mean, before but there
can't
weren't even
use that
libraries
line
before that.
anymore.
Right.
So.
Wow.
I'll feel both ways.
All right. So I got involved there.
No.
Please continue.
So my somewhat philosophical, heady, half-baked question about truth, as a segue.
Great.
So your world with comedy and everything you've done with that previously, but like forget about all the BS. You still have quite a passion for that and appreciation for comedic writing and personalities and what they go through, and comedy and truth have a very fine connection. And I would like to hear more about your perspective on that as a writer and as an connoisseur of comedy.
I would like you to be here every day. You are so complimentary and awesome.
Thank you.
Sidebar. That's an awesome
Pretty
question. It's a great question. I think that comedians, and we had a friend of ours in earlier this week that kind of proved my point. You have to be willing to get egg in your face to get to the truth by saying dumb things and culling down the response and how you feel, not the response necessarily from other people, but how you feel when you say something. You have to go through that process as a comedic writer, as a comedian that tours especially. And so through that process, I feel like you get closer to the truth. So you end up speaking more honestly about your experiences, which are really what people want to know. They want to know your stories. They want to know. You said you're the most complimentary human I've ever met. Like you said really awesome things to me when we sat down, that like just saying what I have to say and dealing with what I have to deal with, like my perspective on life because of that changes other people's. And you've said a couple of things. So I feel like that's what comedians do too. And if more people went to comedy clubs, we'd be in a better position. We'd have more information that people would absorb versus what they read in their feed.
Yeah.
That's all their friends.
Yeah. It sounds like what I'm hearing you say about the kind of comedians resurfacing the truth, almost like kind of giving people medicine, but in a way that it tastes good.
Yeah.
But I like what I didn't realize about comedians until I started to kind of look a little more, partially for you guys because you talk about them a lot, is that honing that they do, the tremendous amount of time that's crafted. It's not really ad hoc improv, although it feels like it from
Comedy and
the
Porsches have
audiences.
so much in common because of the evolutionary process to get to both, the 9/11 specifically. So it's kind of a neat thing. I mean, I don't think there's a mistake or the fact that Jerry's into him, I'm sure helps all their comedians want to be like Jerry. But we know a tremendous amount of comedians who I'm pretty sure hang out with us because of our Porsche collection, Porsche connection, versus the fact that we know them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What we have to offer our friends now is the fact that we're like in the Porsche community. You know what I mean? That's like the cool thing.
Yeah. There's go ahead.
It aligns really well with comedy, so I appreciate that you saw that.
Yeah,
'Cause neat.
there's a lot of really funny connections, and so when we ended up watching the Gary Shandling documentary,
Judd's,
two-part,
yeah.
which was really, really good, and neither Mike or I had a real appreciation for him. Go ahead, you're gonna ask.
No, I'm not going to say anything. It's just that I can't describe my closeness to Gary Shandling. Like a lot of people, I'm sure I'm not the only one. I've met the man. I never knew him well or anything. But the connection that I feel to him now, I don't even want to get in. I mean, I'll tell you off the air some stuff that's just so stinking weird that I don't want to say it here because people will be like, wait, what? You know what I mean? Like, I'll just... Any future success of this show will be tanked immediately because they'll be like, he really believes that? I'm like, no, I'm not saying that. But there's some weird stuff for sure.
I would love to
there's
hear
definitely
that.
a connection there, and he touched a lot of people, and I'm just one of them.
And I, watching that documentary, which I thought was just an amazing testament to someone. There's that whole bit about watch it. I'm going to bring it back about the boxing.
Mm-hmm.
And the Buddhism, which he kind of played back and forth. And a lot of my life the last few years has touched those two areas, only slightly different, more of like kind of a spiritual journey, and then the Krav Maga stuff. And everything he was talking about made total sense to me, like 100%. I was like, where did this come from?
Yeah.
It was really profound, for lack of a better word, for me to watch anyway. I'm sure Mike was really annoyed at like all my commentaries while we were watching. Like, oh my God.
Yeah, but do you find that it's, I mean, gosh.
But we watched both parts.
Forget the amount of truth in it. I just find that people can find so much of themselves in that documentary if they're just willing to, if they're open to seeing it.
Yeah.
I mean, Gary's just a man. We're all just people.
Yeah.
What we do with it is up to us.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
100%. I the lesson to kind of own you
Yeah.
and who you are and how you behave, that's really the only thing that you even have marginal control over.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Well, I was saying
Like
that
a
with our
little
guest
bit.
you just mentioned, Richard Chasler, the other day. I said, what do you think the percentage is of people out there, people walking around in the world, what the heck do you think the percentage is of people who are actually square with the house, like square with themselves, and they know where they stand, and they know they're more good than bad. You know what I mean? Somebody who's actually done the work. I wouldn't know. I'm asking the question because I have no clue. No. I don't mean perfect. I don't mean everyone's the Dalai Lama. Richard mistook that yesterday too. I'm not saying perfect. I'm just saying someone who's connected, who's mindful, who's willing to admit their flaws and work on them and improve them and fucking cancel them out, because you don't have to try. You can just stop doing that shit if you don't like it.
Yeah.
All that. I don't know. I guess I need to hone that question and figure out exactly how to ask it.
I think it comes across very much like he's super. I don't know if you saw this one, but he's a pretty rough East Coast guy, so he speaks that way, and I get it. And we kind of came to a meeting of the minds yesterday that like he really does have an awareness for how people's behavior has changed. And that was so interesting. I always am curious. I always used to ask clients that went on the road, like, what are people like everywhere? Because and then I traveled a ton. So I saw people everywhere, but they were all in the same kind of people pleasing profession. So it was just a different way of saying, sure, thanks. But but the stand-ups, the guys that tour and the guys that go on the road and the guys that know that life, like it's really interesting to ask them those questions of like what people are like in different places, because you find that people are less aware in certain places and more so in other places and about different things, and it changes how we talk to each other sometimes. I feel,
and Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Like if the focus is on your rudimentary human needs, I need shelter, I need food, I need, there's a lot of fear in that. And it's only, I think, once you can start either acknowledging the fear or certain categories are fulfilled that you can even focus on other things, right? Or you have some sort of, I don't know, near-death experience and you're like, oh, well, nothing to be scared of. I best got this one shot, right?
That's what it was for Gary.
Yeah. Yeah. He clearly felt that.
He had an experience that he was vocal about in safe places where he could, tell people. And now I think that he's gone. It's sort of become just sort of common knowledge. But I mean, he was in an accident. He was hit by a car and he died essentially. Yeah.
What they said in the that he had an experience where
the story that I've heard him tell was that he went somewhere else. He saw Gary on the ground. He saw the whole thing, and he went somewhere else and was asked, do you want to continue living the Gary Shandling life? Yeah. And he had a choice to make, and he made it. Yeah. And I find it fascinating, whether you believe in this stuff or not, whether that happened in a real place that people can, I mean, I don't know how all that works. I tend to believe that none of this is real and it's all just a figment of our imagination. Once you zoom out far enough, it's all just energies and
it's fun to watch Jim Carrey field questions on the red carpet now that he's in that headspace. That's
now
like my
talking,
favorite thing.
Now that would, somebody talked about who would the ultimate get be. For me, it would be Jim Carrey. And I don't care if we do it on the show or not. I just would love to have a conversation with the man.
Yeah.
Because I feel that we come from a similar place, and I can't wait to have the desk and chairs. I'm watching every time I'm talking. I see the elbow going up and the whole bit in the because I'm looking at the monitor.
I'm so fidgety.
Yeah, and I've decided I'm not even looking at the monitor.
Now take a look.
I'm not even looking at the monitor.
No, it's great.
As far as I'm concerned, I'm not even here.
Anyway, I agree. Yes, Jim Carrey on the red carpet or anything where he has an opportunity to answer something with his true beliefs.
It's fantastic to watch because then people are like they just don't know what to do with it.
They're like, oh, but we're doing this little show here and you're not playing along.
That's right.
Oh, man.
That's right.
And that's where you're like, oh, yeah, it's all bullshit. It's all bullshit.
Yeah.
And it's fine. We're all doing it, and it's great. Isn't it fun? Isn't this bullshit fun if you navigate it well?
It is, and
you can enjoy the hell out of it.
I feel like there's an obligation to make the bullshit kind.
Yeah, okay. I like this.
Thank you for saying that. Continue, please.
Just don't be an asshole. I just find myself thinking that just don't be an asshole. Like there's ways around things. There's nobody's not on your side or on your side.
Yep.
There's enough for everyone. Maybe I've got rose-colored glasses on, but just start with not being an asshole. Start with not being but I think it's because people are just scared in general. Something's taken away from me. Someone's judging me.
I have to act this way to protect whatever I have.
100%.
I worked so hard to get it, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
This is what I did to get it. I may as well do the same thing to protect it.
And I'm not pointing fingers because whenever I find myself doing something, I'm like, am I doing this because I'm scared? Like 99% of the time it's yes.
But you take that moment to ask yourself and then you figure it out.
Well,
and that
trying anyway.
That's the struggle.
You're aware of it and it pings your thought to at least acknowledge the thought, which is already a million past anyone else.
That I'm not so sure about. But I think there's movement in the right direction at least.
Agreed. Fully agreed.
Movement's movement, man.
Movement is movement.
All right, we're coming up on the hour here. We're not there yet, but we are. Wow. We really are. We're at 55 minutes almost here. I want to discuss one other thing that you asked about before we started the show, and I said we would talk about it on the show. But I also want to find out if you're done with your cards for Mrs. Ryan.
I had one question.
I think that you should do that. Okay. Yeah, I think you should do that. Sit over here.
And this is an intentional one. that is actually scripted out. But as I've heard you talk about the MS stuff a lot, and I want to know, what's the one question you wish people would ask you about living with MS? I'm sure there are probably many, but
that's awesome. The one question I would ask people that want to actually use the answer for relationships going forward, that will be the most beneficial for me, would be, how is your life different? Because the thing I fight with the most, and you guys were talking about quantums and science and spirituality, like the crisscross, I genuinely feel like all of that is information that I have half of. So that's how I spend my days, trying to make those connections, because they are so analogous. And because I feel like my body is fighting those two concepts, it's my job to figure out where they intersect. So that is so heady and so weird to talk about, but it's also nothing like my old life. So that's the real thing people would ask, like, what's life like now that is less comfortable?
yeah.
That would be really helpful to be able to answer and talk to people about, because the person that asked the question is as much the question.
Yeah, thank you. And what I'm hearing you say too is that maybe the assumption is that it's mostly physical, but it's actually really, really mental most of the time, in addition to or on top of.
The mental, to me, rules everything else.
Yeah.
So the mental has to be accommodated first and foremost, and that's invisible unless you know me and you know that I'm not just a blanket asshole. Like, I'm not just saying things to make a scene or to ask an awkward question necessarily. Like, I'm genuinely not trying to ruffle feathers, but a lot of that invisible cacophony that spills out is hard for me to rein in sometimes. So I do see the mental stuff more than the physical stuff, although the physical stuff's catching up.
I've never experienced or seen any of the mental stuff that you refer to. But I can tell you from the outside perspective that there's nothing but kindness toward you.
Thank you.
A lot of love that you are, I believe, creating actually yourself, that's coming back at you.
That means a lot. Thank you for saying that.
Thank you guys. Are you kidding me? I was telling her when I walked in, I was like, I feel like I have the Ryans all to myself today.
How cool.
Like, I was so excited.
Well, generally, yeah, Breakfast Club or whenever we see you, it's
I know,
always
it's
there's
just
15
like,
other people and it's the other side, yeah.
So
I would like to thank you for everything you just said and just for being very cool and positive in Mrs. Ryan's life as well.
Oh, thank you guys.
It's very, very cool. You are a very deep, interesting, touching, awesome person.
There's a flip side too, but that's
I can't
not
wait. I
this
can't
show.
wait to explore that one.
That's not happening now.
We all have it. We all have the Mr. Hyde. Well, that was awesome. Do you guys want to do a quick check-in on
Kitty Cam? I need to stop interrupting. I'm the worst.
Why? Why are you the worst? You didn't say anything. She said kitty cam. I know what you want to check in on, but
Let's go to kitty
can
cam.
do both.
But there isn't a there just isn't a kitty cam. You know what I mean? There's
All
nobody
right.
there.
Sorry.
Why are you sorry?
Excited.
I feel like you get uncomfortable with the silence, which was there for a second. Is that what it was? Was that what it was? After
I
the
can
compliment?
never read you and it's quiet. So it's not the silence inherently that bothers me. It's like I never know how to read silence.
She had that moment when they told Tina Fey, like when you go in to interview with Lorne Michaels and don't finish his sentences. And she finished your sentence. And then she was like,
though.
not kitty cam, not kitty cam.
We
He wants
both-
to do something else.
We both have a habit of doing that. I feel like I may have learned it from her, but either way, we both exercise it very much now, and we're both trying to shed it. It's not a good quality, that's for sure. I mean, when I do it anyway. I didn't even notice that time with you, but anyway, you're such a derailer, though. I will say that. back to this. It's the Set Tracker 3000 Plus Desk and Chairs Across America tour.
I think I'm getting a free table out of this, right?
Are you? I think so.
This one. I'm getting this table.
Are you taking my dining room table?
Cut to everyone on the floor, right?
Let's see.
This is really exciting.
Oh, there
Where
we
is
go.
it?
Okay, so I'm going to go over to the Life with the Ryans Set Tracker 3000 Plus tracker station. Hang on. All right.
Brilliant.
Can you all hear me now?
Yes.
We put a mic over here in the tracker station. Okay. So what we started up here in New York, as everyone knows, and then the goal, of course, is to get over here to. Okie doke. Well,
We'll just blur that out in post. Don't
exactly.
worry.
Currently, we are sitting over here in Fort Hood. Fort Hood. There's not a whole lot of information on Fort Hood, it seems like. But that's where it is. Fort Hood, Texas is where we are today.
Oh, man.
And still estimating Friday delivery.
Very exciting. And is the desk significantly bigger than this one, or smaller, or?
It will be a different setup.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
You have to move stuff around.
Yeah, it's going to be better. It's going to be better for us
Yeah.
and what we wanted to do in the first place. It won't be set up like it was on the David Letterman show, with the whatever. I'm just going
Yeah.
to put this up with the desk and the chairs and the on the whatever. It won't be like that in the image there.
Okay.
It'll be more intimate, more like this.
It's a great picture.
Of course.
There's a whole nother episode on Bill Murray. He's another one.
Oh yeah. So do you know this stuff? I mean, like I drew these in high school. You know what I mean? Like
really
that's
cool.
the desk and chairs that we're gonna have while I was doing my fucking talk show. All these different iterations of my talk show, by the way.
I love it.
Yeah. So
I love that you have manifested your reality and your
isn't it
dream.
bizarre? It's weird.
It is weird when you finally start to see it happen, but it's no different than an athlete visualizing
The
their
win,
performance.
for sure.
I think
I agree
you
with
just
you.
have to have the consistency.
I was doing this. I was an only. I think you've probably heard us talk about it on the show before. I'm an only child, and I spent a lot of time alone as a kid. 'Cause My
Yeah.
parents were divorced, and they both worked, and whatever. I just spent a lot of time alone. I never really thought much of that, except that when you spend time alone, you're meditating and you're thinking and you're creating. And to me, I was just passing the time. But all of these sketches and all of this, there's pictures of this microphone. This is a replica, obviously, but there's pictures of this microphone from the real David Letterman from every different angle. I drove it like, here's RCA microphone, left side, RCA microphone, front.
In his science notebook. Like,
Yeah, when I was supposed to be doing
class.
school. There's no reason for any of this stuff, but I was
Infinitely more
doing it.
interesting than than
Yeah,
all
for
of
whatever
this.
reason, right?
Yeah.
So yeah,
Awesome.
you're right about the manifestations. I just it's crazy. It's crazy.
I love it.
Thanks.
Thank
Thanks
you
for
guys so
supporting
much.
it. Thanks for supporting it and not
Thanks
thinking
for
we're totally weird.
supporting it. Yeah.
Because we are totally weird too. I can't believe that you guys were coming over. You were going to do coffee. You weren't going to do a show, and now we did like one of my favorite shows.
Oh, thank you.
It was really, really fun.
I was being really selfish. I wanted to talk to Nicole. I feel like I don't hear her enough on the show, and I want to know what's going on in her head. So it was totally selfish, but.
Well, you guys can still go
We
do that. You
can.
still hang out anytime you
Yeah.
want. I have a lot of work with the editing. I got to take our address out
Yeah.
of that damn thing. So, so you guys, please carry on and do whatever you like.
Okay.
For everybody else, we will be back tomorrow. And I don't think we have a guest tomorrow, right? We're going to close out the. Yeah. Okay. Great. We'll see everybody tomorrow. Daria, we love you. Thank you for being here, Mrs. Ryan. I love you.
Thank
And
you.
we love everybody at home. See you tomorrow.
Bye, guys.